So we're in the book of the double twilight, and we are just beginning the description of the beginning of that morning twilight of the gods, when there's a break in this everlasting night. Some light appears, and it's very beautiful. It's like a dawn with subtle colors, magical light. But everything is very vague. We read about the vague fields, the vague cattle, the vague spirits, vague melodies wandered with a bodiless cry. One can hear, maybe it's something like birds, but you can't see them, only hear them. Vague melodies touched the soul and fled, pursued into harmonious distances, unseized. We can't grasp them. They're fading away. So I'm going to start reading from there. Page 602, line 123. Forms subtly elusive and half-luminous powers, wishing no goal for their unearthly course, strayed happily through vague ideal lands, or floated without footing, or their walk left steps of reverie on sweet memory's ground, or they paced to the mighty measure of their thoughts, led by a low, far chanting of the gods. A ripple of gleaming wings crossed the far sky. Birds, like pale-bosomed imaginations, flew with low, disturbing voices of desire, and half-heard lowings drew the listening ear, as if the sun god's brilliant kine were there, hidden in mist and passing towards the sun. These fugitive beings, these elusive shapes, were all that claimed the eye and met the soul, the natural inhabitants of that world. But nothing there was fixed or stayed for long. No mortal feet could rest upon that soil. No breath of life lingered embodied there. In that fine chaos, joy fled dancing past, and beauty evaded settled line and form, and hid its sense in mysteries of hue. Yet gladness ever repeated the same notes, and gave the sense of an enduring world. There was a strange consistency of shapes, and the same thoughts were constant passers-by, and all renewed unendingly its charm, alluring ever the expectant heart, like music that one always waits to hear, like the recurrence of a haunting rhyme. one touched incessantly, things never ceased, a skirt of worlds invisibly divine. As if a trail of disappearing stars there showered upon the floating atmosphere, colors and lights and evanescent gleams that called to follow into a magic heaven. And in each cry that fainted on the ear, there was the voice of an unrealized bliss. An adoration reigned in the yearning heart, a spirit of purity, an elusive presence of fairy beauty and ungrasped delight, whose momentary and escaping thrill, however unsubstantial to our flesh and brief even in imperishableness, much sweeter seemed than any rapture known, earth or all-conquering heaven can ever give. Heaven ever young, and earth too firm and old, delay the heart by immobility. Their raptures of creation last too long. Their bold formations are too absolute, carved by an anguish of divine endeavor. They stand up sculptured on the eternal hills, or quarried from the living rocks of God, win immortality by perfect form. They are too intimate with eternal things, vessels of infinite significances. They are too clear, too great, too meaningful. No mist or shadow soothes the vanquished sight. No soft penumbra of incertitude. These only touched a golden hem of bliss, the gleaming shoulder of some godlike hope, the flying feet of exquisite desires. Rosa will read. Yeah.
Form, softly, elusive and half luminous powers, wishing to go for
Wishing no goal.
no goal for their unearthly cause, stayed happily through vague,
Vague, yeah.
vague ideal lands, or floated without footing for their walk, left steps of reverie on sweet memories ground.
Yes, we'll stop there. Yes. So forms, they are elusive. That means one can't, they are running away. One can't grasp them. Something that's elusive, you can't tie it down, catch it. These forms are subtle forms that are escaping and dissolving. And there are powers who are half luminous. Everything in that world is half luminous. It's a twilight world. So these forms and these powers, they don't have any goal or aim or end. They are just straying on their unearthly course. This is not a physical world. This is a subtle world, the world of the ideal. So they are straying happily through vague, ideal lands. This word vague comes so many times. Does everybody know what it means? Something that's unclear. Yes. Vague, yes. It can be something, a form that's vague. We don't see it clearly. We see it as if through a mist. Or sometimes it can be a thought. A vague thought comes. We can't exactly define what it is. So they are straying happily. Sometimes they seem to float without footing. They are not touching the ground. Or if they touch the ground, their walk left steps of reverie, steps of dream. It's as if it leaves some kind of dream print, some mark of dream on sweet memories ground. As if the ground they are treading on leaves an imprint like the memory of a dream. Or they paste, yeah.
Or they paste to the mighty
measure
of their thoughts, led by a low, far chanting of the gods.
Yes, thank you. Or they may be great, noble forms and shapes who are pacing, walking slowly. This is what Sri Aurobindo used to do in his room. He paced up and down, up and down. So these forms are pacing to the mighty measure of their thoughts. Here measure means rhythm. Pacing. There's a rhythm of their thoughts. And those beings are being led by a low, far chanting of the gods. In the distance, faintly, we can hear chanting. And this is gods who are chanting.
A ripple of gleaming wings crossed the far sky. Birds, like pale-bosomed imaginations, flew, with low, disturbing voices of desire, and half-heard blowings drew the listening ear, as if the sun-god's brilliant kind were there, hidden in mist and passing towards the sun.
Yes. All this is very misty and vague. No? So there are also wings in the sky, birds, a ripple of gleaming wings across the far sky. They're in the distance, only faintly seen. And those birds, he says, like pale-bosomed imaginations. The breast is pale. There's something faint about them. Wonderful forms flying with low, disturbing voices of desire. Of course, the birds fly and there's a sound, they cry. But here, this is the world of the ideal. So these are all forms, attractive forms that are on a high level that we haven't grasped yet. So there's something attractive and alluring about them. And half-heard lowings. This is the sound that cows make. We can hear the sound of those cows. We don't see them, but the sound is as if these are the cows of the sun god from the Vedas, those wonderful cows that were hidden in the dark cave. So they are there. They are not in their cave. They are free, and they are hidden in mist, and they are moving, they're passing towards the sun. Kine. And cows. Cattle more. Yeah. It's not just cows, it's bulls and calves and everything. You'll read, Bhavana?
These fugitive beings, these elusive shapes, were all that climbed the eyes and met the soul, the natural inhabitants of that world.
So this is all that can be seen. They are fugitive. They're just seen for a moment. They're elusive shapes. One can't quite catch what is the shape. It's not clear. These things are all that claimed the eye. This is all that can be seen. And this is all that meets the soul. The soul also only receives these vague impressions. And these are the forms and of the natural inhabitants of that world, that ideal world. You'll read, Satyajit?
That nothing there was fixed or stayed for long. No mortal feet could rest upon that soil. No breath of life lingered embodied there.
Yes, so this is the characteristic of that world. There's no fixed forms. Nothing remains for long. This is not a physical world. So mortal feet, like our big flat feet, could rest upon that soil. Everything is fleeting. And no breath of life lingered embodied there. Here we have bodies that are enlivened by the breath of life. There's nothing like that. There may be a breath of life, but it doesn't stay for long. It's not embodied. Ganga Lakshmi.
In that fine chaos, joy fled dancing past, and beauty evaded settled line and form, and hid its sense in mysteries of hue.
You can read the next two lines, please.
Its gladness ever repeated the same notes, and gave the sense of an enduring world.
So everything is on the move in that fine chaos. It's something very, very subtle, delicate. Joy fled dancing past. It's just there for a minute. And beauty is there, but that beauty evaded, it escaped from settled line and form. It doesn't take any fixed forms. And that beauty hid its sense here, its meaning, in mysteries of hue. Beautiful, mysterious, vague colors. And yet, that joy fled dancing past, but still the gladness, the happiness, went on repeating the same notes. And because there's that repetition of fleeting forms, that does give the sense of an enduring world, a world that lasts, that has durability. Ganga Lakshmi.
There was a strange consistency of shapes, and the same thoughts were constant passerby, and all renew and dwindling
unendingly.
unendingly its charm, alluring ever the expectant heart, like music that one always waits to hear, like the recurrence of the haunting
Rhyme. Mm. So, though these shapes are elusive, there is some kind of consistency, some sameness, and some small density to them also. No? And the same thoughts were constant passers-by. The same ideas kept passing by. And all this all together goes on renewing its charm, coming again and again and again, unendingly. And that is attracting the expectant heart. The heart is always waiting for something to come back, something beautiful, no? Like music that one always waits to hear. Where there's some beautiful music and a particular phrase or passage is repeated, you wait for that lovely phrase to come back again and again. Or it's like the recurrence of a haunting rhyme. A rhyme is in poetry when the words at the end of the line have matching sounds, no? And that can be very, very charming when we hear these sounds repeated, echoing again. And he says this rhyme is haunting. That has a double meaning. Typically, haunting is what a ghost does. It comes back again and again. But if it's a haunting melody, it's something very beautiful that you hear and you want to hear it again, and you try to remember it, and maybe you can't quite remember it, but it's so beautiful you want to go on hearing it again and again. Helmut.
One touch incessantly, things never cease. A skirt of worlds invisibly divine.
So, one touched incessantly, again and again, unendingly. Things, you just touch them, but you can't grasp them and hold on to them. And this seems to be the skirt of worlds, invisibly divine. Just touching the hem, the edge, the passing edge of something, of a world that's there, a beautiful divine world that you can't see. You might just feel the hem passing, brushing against you. Sergei?
As if a trail of disappearing stars, they are showering upon the floating atmosphere, colors and lights, and evanescent leaves that call to follow into a magic heaven. And in each cry that faint on the air, there was the voice of an unrealized bliss.
Yes. So also in the sky, they're showering down on this floating, inconstant atmosphere. Showers of colors and lights, gleams that shine just for a moment and disappear again. Evanescent. It means something that comes and vanishes almost immediately. And those things also are very attracting, no? When these showers of lights and gleams come, you want to follow them. That call to follow into a magic heaven. It's like a promise, a call. And similarly with the sounds. Each cry fainted on the ear. You just hear it and then it fades away. But each of those cries is like a call, an invitation to an unrealized bliss. It gives you a hint or a promise of some bliss, some wonderful delight, but that's never realized. It's just hinted at. Joel.
An adoration reign in the yearning heart, a spirit of purity, an elusive presence of fairy beauty and ungrasped delight, whose momentary and escaping thrill, however unsubstantial to our flesh, and brief even in imperishableness, much sweeter seemed than any rapture known, earth or all-conquering heaven can ever give.
Yes. So there the heart feels adoration and yearning. In that place there's a spirit of purity, like a breath of jasmine on the night air. An elusive presence. There seems to be somebody there, but one can't find out who. But that presence has fairy beauty, magical beauty. And it's also promising this delight, ungrasped delight, unrealized bliss. And the thrill of that delight just comes for a moment and then escapes again. And yet it's unsubstantial to our flesh, as if the flesh couldn't really feel it, no? And it's so brief, even though it is imperishable. It can't die. It will go on and on forever. But it just comes so briefly. That thrill is so much sweeter than any kind of delight that we can gain here on earth or in heaven. It seems to be much sweeter than anything that earth or all-conquering heaven can give. And in the next two sentences, Aurobindo explains why it seems much sweeter. What's wrong with the delights which earth and heaven can give. Patricia.
Heaven ever young, and earth too firm and old, delay the heart by immobility. Their raptures of creation last too long. Their bold formations are too absolute. Carved by an anguish of divine endeavor, they stand up sculptured on the eternal hills, or quarried from the living rocks of God with immortality by perfect. When immortality by perfect.
Yes. So the forms and the delights that earth or all-conquering heaven can give, they are immobile. They don't move. They are fixed. They delay the heart by immobility. You can seize them and hold them and they stay there. No? Heaven is ever young because it's immortal, always young. No? And earth, he says, is too firm and old. Our matter feels like that. So these things delay the heart by immobility. They don't move. And they're raptures of creation. Earth has raptures, heaven has raptures, but they are both lasting too long compared with this fleeting, evanescent, elusive delights of the twilight of the ideal. Their formations are too absolute. They are like this, clear, outlined, fixed. They have been carved by an anguish of divine endeavor. Enormous amounts of painful effort have gone into creating these absolute formations. So on earth, they stand up sculptured on the eternal hills, the unchanging mountains, and in heaven they are quarried from the living rocks of God. Quarried means cut out from. We need stone for a statue or for a building. We will have to cut it out of the living rock. So those kinds of rapture win immortality by their perfect form.
They are too intimate with eternal things, vessels of infinite significance. They are too clear, too great, too meaningful. No mist or shadow soothes the vanquished sight. No soft penumbra of uncertainty.
So that's what makes these things so attractive. No? The other things are too intimate with eternal things. They're too long-lasting. They are vessels. They contain infinite significances. They are clear. They are great. They're full of clear meanings. So there's no mist or shadow to give mystery to, he says, to soothe the vanquished sight. You just see them. They're uncompromising. There are no soft edges to comfort your eyes, to make it some beautiful, soft, comfortable feeling. No mist or shadow soothes the vanquished sight. Vanquished means conquered, overcome. There's no soft penumbra of incertitude. Penumbra means twilight, of uncertainty, of vagueness. Gomsun.
These all touch the golden hem of the lace, the gleaming shoulder of the sun, up like hawk, the flying feet of exquisite desires.
So he says these raptures, the raptures of this world of twilight, the twilight of the ideal, these just touch a golden hem of bliss. Just touching for a moment. Or you might see just the gleaming shoulder of some goddess of godlike hope. She passes for a moment. Or they are like feet running rapidly away. The flying feet of exquisite desires. It's a little bit like that short poem of Sri Aurobindo called Revelation, where he speaks about somebody passing very quickly. That's like a revelation. You just see a cheek, a foot. It's gone. Praveen.
On a slow trembling brink between night and day, they shone like visitants from the morning star, satisfied beginnings of perfection. first tremulous imaginings of a heavenly world. They mingle in a passion for pursuit, thrilled with a spray of joy, too slight to tire.
Yes. So again, this is this dawn atmosphere, the slow, trembling brink, the edge, the verge between night and day. These raptures, these various different forms of delight, they shine like visitants, people visiting from the morning star. The morning star is the first star that comes up before the sun rises. No? It's always a sort of promise. So he says they represent satisfied beginnings of perfection. It's just a beginning, and yet in a way it seems complete. First tremulous imaginings of a heavenly world. Those ideals give us perhaps a first glimpse of divine possibilities, and he uses this word trembling and tremulous. There's a quiver to it. It's not sure, it's not certain, it's something shy and hesitant. And those tremulous imaginings, those visitants, they mingle together in a passion of pursuit, an intense delight of hunting, of following, of running after. No? And they are thrilled with a spray of joy, too slight to tire. Spray, it's when you get, you stand near a waterfall and some of the drops of water blow towards you. You just get a little sprinkle. That's so delightful. No? And it only comes for a moment. It's too slight. There's not enough of it for you ever to get tired of it. So that joy goes on persisting. This promise of unrealized bliss. Ton, would you read?
All in this world was shadowed for, not limits, like faces sleeping on a fan of fire, or shapes of wonder in a tinted blur, like fugitive landscapes painting silver mists.
So again, he's trying to give us an idea of how delicate and fine and subtle and vague this world is. No? Everything in this world is not limned, it's not outlined clearly. It's just a beautiful colored blur or shadow, without clear outlines. Or it's like faces leaping on a fan of fire. When you look into the flames, you might see for a moment faces shifting, forms like that. Or shapes of wonder in a tinted blur. Blurred is again when the edges are not clear. It's tinted, lovely colors. So it's like fugitive landscapes painting silver mists. I think some Far Eastern watercolor paintings might be like this, where the paint is put on very liquid, it blurs as it sinks into the paper, and just suggestions of landscapes are given in these silver mists. Mila?
Here vision fled back from the sight alarm, and sound sought refuge from the ear's surprise, and all experience was a hasty joy,
Hasty joy. Yeah. In haste, it hurries past. No? Yeah. So it's as if the thing that you're wanting to see runs away, fleds back from the sight. It doesn't allow you to catch it with your sight. It's alarmed, it's afraid, it's shy. Somebody running away. Don't catch me. And similarly, sound. The sounds sought refuge. They just surprise the ear and then they run away. They don't want to be caught. No. And all experience was a hasty joy. You have to catch it quickly because it'll be gone. Hasty means doing things in a hurry. Parry. You can read? You haven't got the place. Babel.
The joy here snatched were half forbidden things. The horror soul rivals for the temptation wailed, as when the goddess bosom dimly moves, the first desire, and her white soul transfigured, the glimmering Eden crossed by a fairy queen. Trembles the expectations highly want, but nothing is familiar, yet is this.
I'm just amazed, by Aurobindo's poetry here, how to say anything about it. No. These hasty joys, that you snatch, that you manage to catch hold of, they are half forbidden things. You have the feeling that, you have to enjoy them quickly, but maybe you shouldn't. No. Timorous. Timorous again means shy, hesitant, fearful. Soul bridals, a marriage of souls, delicately veiled. He says it's like when for the first time a goddess, her bosom dimly moves. She begins to feel the emotion of first desire. And her soul that has been absolutely white gets transfigured. He says a glimmering Eden. Eden is paradise. Mm-hmm. Glimmering, it's light is faintly gleaming and moving. So crossing that whiteness, the purity of her soul, comes these fairy gleams, these magical gleams of color. And she trembles to expectation's fairy wand. Last time I think we had anticipation. Expectation is something similar. You think, something wonderful is coming. So she feels that promise that something wonderful is coming, but she's so pure, she's so virgin, she doesn't know what to expect. Nothing is familiar yet with bliss. She doesn't know what that joy could be. You'll read?
Everything in this fair realm the heavenly exchange, the fleeting gladness of untired delight. In an intensity of magic change.
Yes, there's a full stop there. Yeah. All things, everything in this beautiful realm are heavenly and strange. And they are experienced in this fleeting gladness, the gladness that comes, touches, and is gone, but it's untired delight, precisely because it only touches and then it's gone and then something else comes. So what is happening is an insistency again and again and again this insistency on the magic of change. Chandra.
Fast vanishing hedge, hurrying hints
Hurrying.
Hints of
Fields.
Mid swift escaping land that fell her feet. Journeyed she
Wished.
no end, as one thou clouds. Travels upon a mountain ribbed and hairs, arranging to him out of hidden depths. Sound of invisible streams, she walked
besieged
by the illusion of a mystic spin. The charm of bodiless touches felt and heard. The sweetness as of voice, head and dim, calling like travelers upon seeking winds, melodiously with an alluring cry.
Thank you. So this is Savitri's experience. Past vanishing hedges. It's as if she's moving through landscapes and the landscapes are moving. Hurrying hints of fields. Mid swift escaping lanes that fled her feet, as if she's walking through these narrow ways, but they are running away from her. Journeying, she wished no end. She'd like to go on and on like that forever. And it's like, Aurobindo says, it's like traveling in the mountains, through the clouds, traveling on a mountain ridge. And so you hear things, sounds coming up from below. Ears arising to him out of hidden depths, sound of invisible streams. Can hear the streams but not see them. So Savitri is walking like that, besieged, as if all around she's receiving the impressions of the illusion of a mystic space that is only coming to her through the sense of hearing. And she feels this charm of bodiless touches felt, and she hears the sweetness as of voices high and dim, maybe again the voices of birds, or maybe the voices of apsaras or kinnaras or something like that. Heard a sweetness as of voices high and dim, calling like beings who are traveling on the winds. And the winds are also seeking for something. No? And those voices are so melodious, musical, with an alluring cry. Always this, it's so attractive, all these sounds and different kinds of sensations and experiences and sights.
Lure and allure are the same or different?
Sorry?
Lure and allure are
They're very closely connected, yes. Something that's alluring lures you. Yeah. So I think we must stop there for today.
Forms subtly elusive and half-luminous powers, wishing no goal for their unearthly course, strayed happily through vague ideal lands, or floated without footing, or their walk left steps of reverie on sweet memory's ground, or they paced to the mighty measure of their thoughts, led by a low, far chanting of the gods. A ripple of gleaming wings crossed the far sky. Birds like pale-bosomed imaginations flew with low, disturbing voices of desire, and half-heard lowings drew the listening ear, as if the sun-god's brilliant kine were there, hidden in mist and passing towards the sun. These fugitive beings, these elusive shapes, were all that claimed the eye and met the soul, the natural inhabitants of that world. But nothing there was fixed or stayed for long. No mortal feet could rest upon that soil. No breath of life lingered embodied there. In that fine chaos, joy fled dancing past, and beauty evaded settled line and form, and hid its sense in mysteries of hue. Yet gladness ever repeated the same notes, and gave the sense of an enduring world. There was a strange consistency of shapes, and the same thoughts were constant passers-by, and all renewed unendingly its charm, alluring ever the expectant heart, like music that one always waits to hear, like the recurrence of a haunting rhyme. One touched incessantly things never ceased, a skirt of worlds invisibly divine. As if a trail of disappearing stars, there showered upon the floating atmosphere colours and lights and evanescent gleams that called to follow into a magic heaven. And in each cry that fainted on the ear, there was the voice of an unrealized bliss. An adoration reigned in the yearning heart, a spirit of purity, an elusive presence of fairy beauty and ungrasped delight, whose momentary and escaping thrill, however unsubstantial to our flesh, and brief even in imperishableness, much sweeter seemed than any rapture known, earth or all-conquering heaven can ever give. Heaven ever young, and earth too firm and old, delay the heart by immobility. Their raptures of creation last too long. Their bold formations are too absolute. Carved by an anguish of divine endeavour, they stand up sculptured on the eternal hills. Or, quarried from the living rocks of God, win immortality by perfect form. They are too intimate with eternal things, vessels of infinite significances. They are too clear, too great, too meaningful. No mist or shadow soothes the vanquished sight. No soft penumbra of incertitude. These only touched a golden hem of bliss, the gleaming shoulder of some godlike hope, the flying feet of exquisite desires. On a slow, trembling brink between night and day, they shone like visitants from the morning star, satisfied beginnings of perfection, first tremulous imaginings of a heavenly world. They mingle in a passion of pursuit, thrilled with a spray of joy too slight to tire. All in this world was shadowed forth, not limned, like faces leaping on a fan of fire, or shapes of wonder in a tinted blur, like fugitive landscapes painting silver mists. Here vision fled back from the sight, alarmed, and sound sought refuge from the ear's surprise, and all experience was a hasty joy. The joys here snatched were half-forbidden things, timorous soul bridals delicately veiled, as when a goddess' bosom dimly moves to first desire, and her white soul transfigured, a glimmering Eden crossed by fairy gleams, trembles to expectation's fiery wand, but nothing is familiar yet with bliss. All things in this fair realm were heavenly strange, in a fleeting gladness of untired delight, in an insistency of magic change. Past vanishing hedges, hurrying hints of fields, mid swift escaping lanes that fled her feet, journeying she wished no end. As one through clouds travels upon a mountain ridge, and hears arising to him out of hidden depths sound of invisible streams, she walked besieged by the illusion of a mystic space, a charm of bodiless touches felt and heard, a sweetness as of voices high and dim, calling like travellers upon seeking winds, melodiously with an alluring cry.